The galactic research station Nexus Prime floated in the cold darkness of space like a metal giant. Its silver walls stretched for miles in every direction. Inside the massive station, thousands of alien scientists worked day and night. They studied the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. Dr. K.L. Threnox walked down the long hallway of Containment Level 7. His blue skin gleamed under the bright lights. As a Vorthian, he was taller than most species, with 4 arms that moved gracefully as he checked his datapad. This level held the worst monsters they had ever found. Things that could kill with a look or tear through metal like paper. "Morning report, Doctor," said his assistant, a small creature with green scales called Zilch. "All subjects are secure. Except for Subject 47. It broke another sensor last night." Kale stopped walking and turned his large yellow eyes toward the end of the hall. There, behind walls of pure energy and metal, something dark waited. Subject 47 had been brought to the station 3 months ago. The recovery team found it floating in a dead ship near the edge of known space. They had lost 5 good soldiers getting it aboard. "What did it break this time?" Kale asked. "The thermal scanner. Just like the others. It seems to know exactly where our equipment is." KL nodded slowly. Subject 47 was not like other dangerous animals they kept here. Most creatures acted on instinct. They were hungry or scared or angry. But this one seemed to think. It planned things. It watched them watching it. As they walked closer to the containment area, they passed the human. Marcus Chen sat at a small desk near the observation window. He was the only human on the station. The Galactic Council had sent him as a cultural liaison. Most aliens thought this was a waste of time. Humans were new to space travel. What could they possibly teach species that had been exploring the stars for thousands of years? Marcus looked up from his coffee as they passed. "Good morning, Dr. Threnox." "Good morning, Marcus." Kale tried to sound friendly, but he still did not understand why the human was here. "How is your cultural work going?" Marcus smiled. "Same as always. Watching, learning." Through the thick glass window, they could see Subject 47. It looked like a living shadow mixed with liquid metal. The creature stood nearly 8 feet tall when it wanted to, but its shape changed constantly. Sometimes it looked almost human. Other times it spread out like dark water across the floor of its cell. Right now, it stood perfectly still in the center of its prison. The energy barriers hummed around it, keeping it locked inside. But KL always felt like the creature was not really trapped. It was just choosing to stay. "It killed Dr. Yilan yesterday," Zilch whispered, when he got too close to the barrier. "Dr. Yilan was careless," KL said. But his voice was tight. 3 scientists had died trying to study. Subject 47. The creature never touched them directly. It did not need to. When it got angry, electronic devices stopped working. The air itself seemed to buzz with dangerous energy, and anyone who got too close simply stopped breathing. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. As he approached, something strange happened. Subject 47 turned toward him. The creature's form rippled and shifted, but instead of the hostile posture it showed the aliens, it seemed almost curious. "Interesting," Marcus said quietly. "What is interesting?" Kale asked. "It watches me differently than it watches you." Kale looked through the window again. He had noticed this too, but he had tried to ignore it. When Subject 47 looked at him, or the other alien researchers, its body language screamed danger. Every muscle tensed. Its form grew darker and more solid. But when Marcus was near, the creature relaxed slightly. Not calm, but attentive. "Perhaps it recognizes that you are not a threat," Zilch suggested. "Humans are smaller than most of us, less advanced." Marcus laughed. "Maybe. Or maybe it just likes my cologne." But Kale was not so sure. He had studied dangerous creatures for most of his long life. He knew the difference between a predator sizing up prey and a predator studying something it did not understand. Subject 47 looked at Marcus the same way a scientist might look at a new discovery. The rest of the morning passed quietly. Marcus returned to his desk to write reports that no one would read. Kale continued his rounds, checking on the other contained creatures. There were things with too many teeth, beings made of living electricity, and one creature that existed in 7 dimensions at once. But Subject 47 remained the most dangerous and the most mysterious. At lunchtime, Marcus sat alone in the small human section of the cafeteria. The food here was designed for his biology. Most alien food would make him sick, or worse. As he ate his sandwich, he thought about the creature in Cell 7. Every other species on the station treated Subject 47 like a bomb that might go off at any second. They were terrified of it. And they should be. It was powerful enough to tear the station apart if it really wanted to. But Marcus saw something else when he looked at the creature. He had grown up on Earth, where humans shared the planet with thousands of different animals. Some were dangerous. Some were gentle. But all of them had reasons for what they did. Fear, hunger, protection of their young. What did Subject 47 want? That afternoon, Marcus returned to his observation post. The creature was moving around its cell now, flowing from one corner to another like liquid shadow. Its movements were graceful, but restless, like a tiger pacing in a cage. As Marcus watched, Subject 47 suddenly stopped. It turned toward the window where Marcus sat. For a long moment, human and creature stared at each other through the reinforced glass and energy barriers. Then Subject 47 did something that made Marcus's heart skip a beat. It sat down. Not the crouch of a predator ready to spring, but the relaxed sitting position of someone settling in for a long conversation. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He had seen that pose before, in the intelligence reports about Subject 47's capture. Right before it had destroyed an entire military ship, it had sat just like that. Calm. Patient. Waiting. But waiting for what? Outside the station, space stretched on forever. Stars burned in the distance like tiny fires. And somewhere in the dark between them, other things moved. Things that the galaxy had not discovered yet. Things that might be looking for what they had lost. Subject 47 continued to sit and watch. And Marcus began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, they had been asking the wrong questions all along. The alarm started as a low buzz. Marcus looked up from his afternoon coffee, wondering what drill they were running now. But when the lights flickered and went out for 3 full seconds, he knew this was real. Red emergency lighting bathed everything in an angry glow. The station's computer voice echoed through the halls in a dozen languages. Power fluctuation detected. All personnel remain at stations. This is not a drill. Dr. Threnox came running down the hallway, his forearms moving frantically over his data pad. Solar flare, he shouted to anyone listening. Bigger than predicted. It is interfering with the experimental power core. Marcus stood up and looked through the observation window. The energy barriers around Subject 47's cell were flickering like dying light bulbs. One moment they glowed bright blue. The next they were almost invisible. "Doctor," Marcus called out. "The containment fields are failing." Threnox rushed to the window. His yellow eyes went wide. Impossible. The backup systems should have activated by now, but as they watched, the barriers flickered again. This time they stayed dark for almost 5 seconds. In that moment of weakness, Subject 47 moved. It flowed toward the wall like living shadow, testing the boundary of its prison. When the barriers came back up, the creature stepped back. But Marcus saw something in its posture that made his stomach clench. Subject 47 was learning. It was counting the seconds. Timing the failures. "Evacuate, level 7, Threnox ordered into his communicator. "All non-essential personnel to emergency stations." The barriers failed again. This time for 8 seconds. Subject 47 did not waste the opportunity. It pressed against the wall where the energy field had been. And Marcus heard a sound like metal tearing. The creature's form grew solid and sharp, like knives made of darkness. When the barriers flickered back on, they met resistance. Sparks flew from the wall panels. "It is breaking through," Zilch screamed, running toward the exit. "Security to level 7, Threnox called. "Immediate response required." But Marcus knew it was already too late. The barriers were failing more often now. And each time they went down, Subject 47 pushed harder against its prison. The creature was not just testing the walls anymore. It was destroying them systematically, piece by piece. The final failure lasted 15 seconds. Subject 47 exploded out of its cell like a storm made solid. The creature's form expanded until it filled the entire hallway, flowing around corners and through doorways like liquid shadow. Where it touched electronic equipment, sparks flew and circuits died. The security team arrived just as Subject 47 was breaking free. They carried the latest energy weapons, designed to stop anything. Their leader, a heavily armored Krillian named Commander Vex, raised his weapon. "Target acquired," he announced, firing. The energy beam hit Subject 47 directly in what might have been its center. For a moment, the creature paused. Then it turned toward the security team, and Marcus felt the air itself change. Every hair on his arm stood up. Every electronic device in the area began to hum and spark. Commander Vex fired again. This time, the beam seemed to be absorbed into Subject 47's dark form. The creature grew larger, fed by the energy weapon. "Fall back," Vex ordered, but it was too late. Subject 47 moved faster than anything that size should be able to move. It flowed over the security team like a wave. Marcus heard screaming, but it lasted only seconds. When the creature moved on, the guards were still alive, but they lay unconscious on the floor. Their weapons were completely dead, drained of all power. Emergency bulkheads began closing throughout the station, trying to contain the threat. But Subject 47 seemed to know exactly where it wanted to go. Instead of moving randomly through the station, it headed directly toward the central core. "It is going for the gravity generators," Threnok said, his voice barely a whisper. "If it destroys those," Marcus understood. Without gravity control, the massive station would tear itself apart. Thousands of aliens would die, and Subject 47 seemed to know exactly where to find the most critical systems. "This is not random destruction," Marcus said. "It has a plan." More security teams tried to stop the creature as it moved through the station. Their weapons were useless. Energy beams fed it power. Projectile weapons passed through its shifting form without effect. Physical barriers meant nothing to something that could change its shape at will. But Subject 47 was not just destroying everything in its path. Marcus noticed that it avoided certain areas completely. The medical bay where injured researchers were being treated. The nursery where young aliens were kept. The creature moved around these places like they did not exist. "Why is it not attacking the civilians?" Marcus asked. Threnok was too busy coordinating the evacuation to answer. But Marcus kept watching. Subject 47 had reached the main computer core now. This was the brain of the entire station. If it was destroyed, life support would fail. Navigation would be lost. They would drift helplessly in space until their air ran out. The creature stood before the massive computer banks, its form shifting and flowing. It raised what might have been an arm toward the central processing unit. One touch from those shadow knives would destroy everything. Then it stopped. Subject 47 turned around slowly, as if it had heard something. Its eyeless head moved back and forth, searching. Marcus realized with growing horror that the creature was looking for something specific, or someone. "It is hunting," Marcus said. "All of this, the escape, heading for the core. It is trying to force someone to come to it." "Who would be stupid enough to do that?" Threnok asked. As if in answer, the station's communication system crackled to life. A voice echoed through the halls, speaking in calm, measured tones. It was Marcus's own voice, broadcast from his observation post. "Attention, Subject 47. Marcus said into the microphone. "I know you can hear me. And I think you want to talk." The creature in the computer core went completely still. Every alien on the station held their breath. On the security monitors, they could see Subject 47's form beginning to change. It was becoming more solid, more focused, like it was listening to every word. "You are not trying to destroy us," Marcus continued. "You are trying to get our attention. Well, you have it." "What do you want?" For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Subject 47 began to move again. But instead of toward the computer core, it headed back through the station, moving with purpose toward Level 7, toward Marcus. The hunt had become something else entirely, and Marcus was about to discover what happened when the most dangerous creature in the galaxy decided it was time for a conversation. The corridors of Nexus Prime had never been so quiet. Emergency lighting cast long shadows as Marcus walked toward Level 7. Behind him, he could hear Dr. Threnox and his team arguing in hushed voices. "He has lost his mind," someone whispered. "The creature will kill him instantly." "Should we stop him?" asked another voice. "How?" Threnox replied. "He is the only one it seems interested in talking to." Marcus kept walking. His hands shook slightly, but his steps were steady. He had made his choice when he spoke over the communication system. Now he had to follow through. The damage from Subject 47's escape was everywhere. Scorch marks on the walls where electronics had overloaded. Emergency barriers twisted like paper. But Marcus noticed something the others had missed. The destruction followed a pattern. It was surgical, precise. The creature had broken only what it needed to break. As he rounded the final corner to Level 7, Marcus saw Subject 47 waiting for him. The creature stood in the middle of the hallway, exactly where its cell used to be. The energy barriers were completely gone now, reduced to sparking metal and melted plastic. Subject 47's form rippled like black water, occasionally showing glimpses of the metal skeleton beneath its shadow skin. When Marcus appeared, the creature turned toward him. Its eyeless face somehow conveyed attention. Expectation. "Okay," Marcus said aloud. "I am here. Now what?" Subject 47 moved closer. Each step sent ripples through its liquid metal body. Broken electronics sparked and died as it approached. The air itself seemed to hum with dangerous energy. Marcus felt every instinct screaming at him to run. This thing had killed trained soldiers without even trying. It had torn through the station's best defenses like they were made of paper. Standing here, alone with it, was beyond foolish, but he stayed. When Subject 47 was only 10 feet away, it stopped. The creature tilted its head, studying Marcus like a puzzle it could not solve. Then it did something that sent chills down Marcus's spine. It spoke, not with words, but with sound. A low rumble that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The tone rose and fell like music. But music that no human instrument could make. It was hauntingly beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "I cannot understand you," Marcus said gently, "but I can tell you are trying to communicate." Subject 47's form shimmered. The musical sounds continued, but now they seemed frustrated, urgent, like someone trying to explain something important to a person who spoke a different language. Marcus took a careful step closer. "I want to understand, but I do not know how." The creature's sounds grew more agitated. Its form began to expand again, the way it had during the escape. Marcus realized he was about to witness the same explosion of power that had devastated the security teams. Instead of running, he did the only thing that felt right. He sat down on the floor. The effect was immediate and impossible to understand. Subject 47 froze in mid-expansion. Its form wavered, then began to contract. The dangerous energy humming through the air faded to a whisper. "That is better," Marcus said, settling cross-legged on the cold metal floor. "You were getting a little intense there." Subject 47 stared at him. Then, with movements that seemed almost careful, the creature began to lower itself down. Its liquid metal form spread out and reformed until it too was sitting on the floor, mirroring Marcus's position. "Well," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice calm, "this is interesting." Behind him, he could hear voices over the communication system. Dr. Threnox was giving a running commentary to the station's emergency command center. "The human has sat down," Threnox said, his voice full of disbelief. "Subject 47 is. It appears to be sitting as well. Both subjects are motionless. No hostile actions detected." Marcus ignored the voices and focused on the creature in front of him. Subject 47's form was more stable now, less like liquid shadow and more like solid metal shaped into the rough outline of a person. It still had no eyes that Marcus could see, but he felt the weight of its attention. "You know," Marcus said conversationally, "when I was a kid, I had a dog named Buddy. Biggest, meanest-looking pit bull you ever saw. Everyone was afraid of him, but you know what calmed him down when he got worked up? Just sitting quietly and talking to him. Did not matter what I said. He just liked the sound of a human voice." Subject 47 tilted its head. The musical sounds it had been making grew quieter, more thoughtful. "I do not think you are much like Buddy, though," Marcus continued. "You are a lot smarter. Smart enough to break out of a prison that was supposed to hold anything. Smart enough to navigate a space station you had never seen before. Smart enough to know exactly where to go to cause the most damage." The creature's form rippled slightly, like water when a stone is dropped into it. "But you did not cause that damage, did you?" Marcus said. "You could have destroyed the life support systems. You could have killed everyone on this station. But you did not. You wanted something else." "I-teen." Marcus paused, thinking. "You wanted to talk to someone. But not just anyone. You wanted to talk to me. A human. Why?" Subject 47 made no sound, but its posture changed. It leaned forward slightly, as if paying closer attention. "Maybe," Marcus said slowly, "it is because we are the only species that still remembers how to listen." The words surprised Marcus as he spoke them. He had not planned to say that, but as soon as the words left his mouth, he knew they were true. Every other species on the station approached problems with logic and technology. They built stronger barriers, used more powerful weapons, gathered more data, but none of them had tried simply talking to Subject 47. None of them had tried to understand what it wanted. "The other species here," Marcus continued, "they are afraid of you. And they should be. You are dangerous. But fear makes them stupid. They see a monster, so they try to cage the monster. They never ask why the monster is here in the first place." Subject 47's musical sounds returned, but softer now, less urgent, almost like it was agreeing. "I think," Marcus said, "you have been trying to tell someone something important, and no one has been listening." The creature's form began to change again. But this time, instead of expanding with threat, it was contracting, becoming more defined, more human-like. By the time the transformation was complete, Subject 47 looked almost like a person made of living metal. It still had no face Marcus could recognize, but its body language was unmistakably that of someone who had been waiting a very long time for someone to finally understand. Marcus smiled. "Okay then, I am listening. What do you want to tell me?" The answer would change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy, about the threats lurking in the dark spaces between stars, and about humanity's place in the cosmic order. But that was a conversation for tomorrow. For now, it was enough that two beings from different worlds had found a way to sit together in peace. The video played on screens across the galaxy within hours. A human sitting calmly on a metal floor, speaking in his primitive language to one of the most dangerous creatures ever discovered. And the creature, which had torn through a research station like paper, sitting peacefully and listening. The footage became the most watched content in galactic history. Scientists, philosophers, and military leaders from 1,000 worlds studied every frame. They ran the audio through every translation program ever created. They analyzed Marcus's brainwaves, his heart rate, even the chemical composition of his breath. Nothing made sense. Dr. Threnox had not slept in 3 days. His laboratory on Nexus Prime had become the center of the largest scientific investigation in recorded history. Ships arrived daily, bringing experts from across known space. Everyone wanted to understand what had happened. "Show me the test results again," demanded Professor Xeris, a famous Andromedan linguist. Her crystalline body chimed softly as she moved, a sound that usually helped her think. Today, it just annoyed everyone around her. Threnox activated the holographic display. Charts and graphs filled the air around them. "We have tested every possible explanation. Pheromones, electromagnetic fields, sonic manipulation, telepathic resonance. Subject 47 shows no response to any of them. What about when we played recordings of the humans speaking? Nothing. The creature completely ignores recorded human speech. It only responds to live humans speaking naturally. Professor Xeris studied the data with her multifaceted eyes. Have you tested other humans? We brought in 5 more from the Earth diplomatic station. Subject 47 responds to all of them exactly the same way. Calm, attentive, peaceful. It does not matter what they say or what language they speak. In another part of the station, Marcus sat in his usual spot near the creature's new containment area. Except now, there were no energy barriers. Subject 47 could leave any time it wanted. Instead, it chose to stay near Marcus, following him around the station like a curious pet. "Good morning," Marcus said, settling into his chair with a cup of coffee. "Sleep well?" Subject 47 did not sleep in any way that made sense to alien scientists. It simply became very still for several hours each day, its metal form cooling to match the temperature of its surroundings. When it woke up, it always moved immediately to wherever Marcus was. The creature sat down across from Marcus, its form more human-like now than it had been during those first days. It had been learning, copying Marcus's posture and movements. Sometimes it even tried to mimic drinking coffee, though it had no mouth and obviously could not consume anything. "The scientists want to run more tests today," Marcus told it. "They still do not understand how this works. Honestly, neither do I." Subject 47 tilted its head. Over the past week, it had developed a whole range of body language. Head tilts for questions, hand gestures for emphasis, even something that looked like shrugging when it did not know the answer to something. "They think," Marcus continued, "that humans have some kind of special brain frequency, something that evolved during our development that other species lost along the way." But Marcus was not sure that was the right answer. He had spent every day talking to Subject 47, and while he could not understand its musical language, he was beginning to sense its moods. When it was curious, the sounds were higher and faster. When it was sad, they dropped to low, haunting notes that made Marcus's chest ache. Dr. Threnox entered the observation area, followed by a small army of alien researchers. "Marcus, we would like to try another test." Marcus sighed. "What kind of test?" "We want to see if Subject 47 can learn to communicate through you. If you could ask it specific questions." "I have been asking it questions for days," Marcus said. "It answers in its own language. I just cannot understand what it is saying." "But perhaps," suggested Dr. Velik, a thin insectoid researcher, "it could learn to answer in human language, through observation and mimicry." Marcus looked at Subject 47. The creature's attention was focused entirely on the conversation, its metal head turning back and forth between the speakers like it was following every word. "Okay," Marcus said. "Let me try something simple." He turned to face Subject 47 directly. "Can you say hello?" The creature's musical response was immediate and complex, a rising melody that sounded almost like a question. "Can you copy me?" Marcus said slowly. "Hello." Subject 47 paused. Then, from somewhere deep in its metal form, came a sound that was almost like a human voice. Hell. Low. Every alien in the room went silent. The creature had never made anything close to human speech before. "That was amazing," Marcus said, grinning. "Can you say more? Can you say my name?" Marcus. 1. March. Kus. The voice was getting clearer, more human-like, but there was still something alien about it, like echoes from a deep cave. "How are you doing this?" Dr. Threnox whispered. "I do not know," Marcus admitted. "But I think it has been trying to talk to us all along. It just needed someone who would listen without being afraid." Over the following days, Subject 47's vocabulary grew rapidly. It learned not just words, but concepts. When it said tired, Marcus could see its form becoming less solid, more relaxed. When it said happy, its metal surface seemed to shine brighter. But the most important conversation came when Marcus asked the question that everyone wanted answered. "Where did you come from?" Subject 47 was quiet for a long time. When it finally spoke, Its voice was filled with an emotion that needed no translation. Home. Gone, it said. All gone. Family. Gone. What happened to your home? Dark came. Dark ate everything. Stars went out. People screamed. Then, silence. Marcus felt a chill run through him. You escaped? Ran. Looked for help. Found. Prison. The ship where they found you? Not my ship. Stole it. Had to warn. Had to tell someone. Dr. Threenox leaned forward. Warn us about what? Subject 47 turned toward the alien scientist, but did not speak. Marcus realized that while the creature had learned human language, it would only share its secrets with humans. What were you trying to warn us about? Marcus asked gently. Dark is coming. Subject 47 said. Dark is hungry. Dark eats light. Eats life. Eats hope. It ate my world. Now it comes for your worlds. How much time do we have? Subject 47 was quiet again. When it spoke, its voice was barely a whisper. I ran for many of your years. But dark is faster than ships. Faster than light. Maybe 10 more years. Maybe 5. The room erupted into concerned chatter among the alien scientists, but Marcus kept his focus on Subject 47. Why did you try to tell only humans? He asked. Why not the others? Others think like machines. Subject 47 explained. Logic, rules, programs. But dark is not logical. Dark is hunger. Need feelings to fight hunger. Need chaos. Marcus understood then why humanity's chaotic evolution, their messy emotional intelligence, had become so important. Logic could not fight something that existed beyond logic. It would take something unpredictable, something that thought with both mind and heart. You came here to find humans, Marcus said. To warn us. Came to find hope, Subject 47 corrected. Found Marcus. Found listening. That night, as Marcus filed his report for Earth Command, he realized that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer the newcomer species, struggling to find their place among the established galactic powers. They had just become the galaxy's only hope for survival, and somewhere in the dark between the stars, an ancient hunger was already moving toward them. Swallowing light and life as it came, the Galactic Council chamber had never seen anything like it. Representatives from 10,000 worlds gathered in an emergency session that was broadcast live across the galaxy. At the center of it all sat a human and a creature that looked like living shadow. Marcus adjusted his formal diplomatic uniform and tried not to think about how many billions of beings were watching. 6 months ago, he had been a nobody. A cultural liaison whose job everyone thought was pointless. Now he was addressing the most powerful government in the known universe. Honorable delegates, Marcus began. I know this is difficult to accept, but everything Subject 47 has told us has been confirmed by our deep space monitors. The darkness it warned us about is real. And it is coming. Next to him, Subject 47 sat perfectly still. In the months since their first conversation, the creature had learned to make itself less frightening to the other species. Its form was more solid now, more recognizably humanoid. But everyone in the chamber could still feel the power that hummed beneath its metal skin. The entity calls itself the Devourer. Marcus continued, reading from his notes. It is not a species or a civilization. It is something else entirely. Something that exists to consume. It has been moving through the galaxy for millions of years, eating entire star systems. Chancellor Zoran, the leader of the council, spoke from his floating platform. And you expect us to believe that this creature is our ally against such a threat? I expect you to listen, Marcus said firmly. Because Subject 47 is the only survivor we have found. Its people fought the Devourer for 1,000 years before their civilization fell. It has knowledge we need. Dr. Threenox activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. Star charts appeared in the air, showing the movement of something vast and dark across the galaxy. These are the readings from our most distant sensors, Threenox explained. Solar systems going dark. Entire regions of space becoming empty. The pattern matches exactly what Subject 47 described. A delegate from the military council stood up. Even if this threat is real, what can one creature and a handful of humans do that our combined fleets cannot? Marcus looked at Subject 47. The creature nodded, a gesture it had learned from watching humans. Tell them, Marcus said quietly. Subject 47 rose to its full height. When it spoke, its voice carried clearly through the massive chamber. Its human speech was perfect now. But the alien music underneath still made some delegates shiver. Your fleets are strong, Subject 47 said. Your weapons powerful. Your strategies clever. But Devour is not enemy. You can fight with strength or cleverness. Devour is hunger that thinks, chaos that plans. Logic cannot defeat chaos. Then how do we fight it? Chancellor Zoran asked. With chaos, Subject 47 replied. With unpredictable. With emotion and feeling and things that make no sense. Need minds that can think sideways. Need hearts that can hope when hope is foolish. Marcus stood up. That is why Subject 47 came looking for humans. We are the only species that still thinks with both logic and emotion, the only ones chaotic enough to find solutions that make no logical sense. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some delegates called the idea ridiculous. Others demanded more proof. A few suggested that humanity was trying to trick them into giving humans more power in the galactic government. But Marcus had expected this. Over the months of working with Subject 47, he had learned patience. The creature had taught him that sometimes the most important conversations happened not with words, but with silence. So Marcus waited. Eventually, the noise died down. Chancellor Zoran called for order. Even if we accept your theory, the Chancellor said. What exactly are you proposing? Marcus activated his own holographic display. This one showed Earth, surrounded by ships from a dozen different species. Earth is offering to coordinate the defense effort, Marcus said. Not because we want to rule anyone, but because we may be the only species that can communicate with beings like Subject 47. And there may be other survivors out there, other refugees from the Devourer's path. What does this coordination involve? Mixed crews on all ships, humans working alongside every other species, sharing not just technology, but ways of thinking, teaching each other how to be unpredictable when logic fails. Subject 47 stepped forward. Also need to find others like me, other survivors. Devour has been moving for a long time. Must be more refugees hiding in dark places, waiting for someone to listen. And you believe humans can find these refugees? Humans found me. Subject 47 said simply. When I was angry and scared and had given up hope, humans sat down and listened. Maybe other survivors also need someone to listen. The debate that followed lasted for hours. But Marcus could see minds changing. The evidence was too strong to ignore. The threat too large for any one species to handle alone. Finally, Chancellor Zoran called for a vote. All in favor of the human proposal for joint defense coordination? The result was not unanimous, but it was enough. By a margin of nearly 2-1, the Galactic Council voted to place humanity at the center of the greatest military operation in galactic history. As the delegates filed out, many of them stopped to speak with Marcus. Some offered support. Others warned him about the enormous responsibility he was taking on. A few simply stared at Subject 47, with a mixture of fear and fascination. When the chamber was finally empty except for Marcus, Subject 47, and Dr. Threnox, Marcus allowed himself to slump in his chair. Think we can actually do this? He asked. Subject 47 tilted its head in the way that meant it was thinking. Do not know if we can stop Devour. But now we can try. Before, I was alone with knowledge. Now, knowledge is shared. And if we fail, then we fail fighting together instead of dying alone. Subject 47 paused. But maybe we do not fail. Humans taught me something important. What is that? Sometimes, impossible things happen when someone sits down and listens. Over the following months, ships began arriving at Earth from across the galaxy. Mixed crews trained together, learning to combine alien logic with human intuition. Scientists shared research on weapons that defied conventional physics, and most importantly, search teams went out into the dark spaces between stars, looking for other survivors. They found 12 more refugees in the first year. Beings from civilizations that the Devourer had consumed centuries or millennia ago. Each one had a different piece of the puzzle. Each one had tried to warn someone and been ignored or imprisoned, but when humans sat with them and listened, they shared their knowledge freely. Marcus stood on the observation deck of the new flagship, a vessel built with technology from 50 different worlds but designed around human principles of controlled chaos. Through the massive windows, he could see the fleet assembling. Thousands of ships, representing every species in the galaxy. Subject 47 joined him at the window. The creature had changed over the months of working together. Its form was more stable now, less like liquid metal and more like polished stone. But its eyes, when it chose to have them, still held the wisdom of someone who had seen civilizations fall. "Ready?" Subject 47 asked. Marcus looked out at the stars. Somewhere in that darkness, the Devourer was moving toward them. An ancient hunger that had consumed galaxies, but for the first time in cosmic history, someone was going out to meet it with something more than logic and weapons. They were bringing hope, chaos, and the strange human ability to find solutions that should not work, but somehow did. "Ready," Marcus said. Behind them, the combined fleets of the galaxy began to move. And somewhere in the dark, other impossible things prepared to happen, because someone had finally learned how to listen. The conversation that had started with a creature escaping from its cage had become the foundation for a new kind of civilization. One built, not on conquest or logic, but on the simple revolutionary idea that sometimes, sitting down and talking could save the universe. Whether it would be enough remained to be seen. But as Marcus watched the stars, he felt something that the Devourer had never encountered before in its millions of years of feeding. He felt hope.